At the beginning of the first video with Deputy Holloway today, that first person I'm talking to is Sheriff Scott decoste. Now, I'm trying to turn in crimes that have been committed, and he keeps trying to pass it off like I'm going to the cops. Obviously, I'm trying to get something done other than just talk to a fucking judge. Scott decoste keeps talking over me in that, as you can tell. Keeps talking about how I was cleared. No, I wasn't. See, there's all of the court dates that I had after Natalie was killed. All of them had to do with Natalie and that situation, every one of them. And the police refusing to collect evidence. Some of that evidence I can never get back because it was on phones that they didn't want to look at. Of course, why would they? I had to go in alone. A lot of people said that they would go in with me, but they just never got around to it. They never got around to writing it down. And that's not my fault. A lot of people threatened and harassed me, and somehow that's magically okay. And that's the thing, is that he keeps trying to jump back to the, oh, well, you were cleared of her murder bullshit. Well, sir, the thing is, I wasn't cleared. I didn't stalk Natalie. I sure as fuck harassed her because I was being harassed, threatened, stalked, assaulted. And that's documented. But it doesn't matter if you document it when the cops won't look at it, especially when they've done wrong shit. The deputies here in Chapel were aware of what was going on. At least one of them. I should take that back. There were 2 officers here in this town that I spoke with before Natalie died. They just didn't care. They didn't care to do their jobs, that whole human nature thing. Sheriff Scott decoste, his demeanor towards me in the beginning of that video, you know, he's trying to sound nice, but he's got his own agenda. His agenda includes covering up the fact that his officers did wrong. And he says, to his knowledge, his officers didn't have any interaction with me before Natalie was killed. That's not true. They took me to the hospital in Sidney, Nebraska, and that is documented. Brenda Dickinson, if she wasn't being such a coward, could come forward and talk about that. And she's not the only one. Sheriff Scott decoste, while listening to the beginning of that video, well, it bugs me listening to him. Because he keeps going back to that part. The fact is, I was prevented from going to court repeatedly. What the cops did here in this town, they do nationwide. Police officers, the first thing that they learn when they become police officers is the dirty little tricks that allow them to get away, that allow cops to break the law and manipulate the law to get away with it. Scott decoste is no different, nor is Jordan Anderson or Cody Selhorst. Scott decoste, every time he gets to talking, he makes it abundantly clear that he doesn't care what I have to say. Only what he has to say matters. Only what he has to say is important. And yes, he has intimidated me on multiple occasions. And yes, it was intentional. Now, the second part of that video, I get to speak with Officer Holloway, or Deputy Holloway, which is nice. But the thing is, police needed to document these things. They needed to take a report from me. They needed to understand that I'm doing my best. I'm trying. At every fucking turn, I have roadblocks. I have people standing in my way, and many of them are wearing badges. The whole internet thing. I'm gonna try that again. I've tried repeatedly to get the police to look at stuff over the internet. And for some reason, it just magically doesn't go through. They can see some of the stuff that I type, but they can't see any of the attachments. So I tried to have other people send those attachments to them. Right now, one of my big concerns is seeing Andrew Witcher in jail. It don't matter if you're married or not. If you force yourself on her, it is rape. Now, it don't matter to me if his wife pressed charges or not. If she doesn't press charges, they'll let it go. But the fact is, his wife also messaged me about him molesting her daughter. And that right there, yeah, she doesn't have a choice in the matter. Scott decoste, he wants to screen what it is that I'm allowed to say and allowed to speak about. That's called censorship, and it's illegal. He wanted to tell me what I could and could not talk about. And I still need a safe place where I can sit down and write that down. See, I had tried to hurry up earlier. The lady who went in with me, she had a limited amount of time. So I tried to do everything I needed in the allotted amount of time. I'm glad she went in with me. There's a lot of things that Sheriff decoste has to say that are complete bullshit. When he went and talked to Miss Laura, he wasn't bothering to ask the right questions. He was asking very pointed questions. Train. The pointed questions that he was asking were questions that if he got the answer that he wanted, that he could use if I take him to court. He could use those to justify the fact that he didn't do his job and neither did his deputies. I don't think he got that satisfaction. Now, the things that he had to say about me showing that stuff and turning it in, Deputy Holloway had something entirely different to say, now didn't he? And that's the problem with going to the police who don't want to do their jobs, or police who are invested in covering up their own wrongdoing or the wrongdoing of fellow officers. I don't hold the sheriff here responsible for the actions of his subordinates. I hold him responsible for his actions when I was trying to bring to him the actions of his subordinates. Now, all these little things that y'all think of as trivial, if they'd have been allowed in court, if police had not failed to collect evidence nationwide, then the real criminals would be sitting behind bars right now. Many of them police officers, several of them FBI agents. It's pretty fucking apparent that I'm not schizophrenic. When I had to go in to speak to the police before, they treated me entirely different. Now, Scott DeCoste, the first time I met him was after Natalie was dead. And he talked to me nicely for probably the first few minutes. When I went back to his office to speak to him after seeing what was on those tapes, or on that CD, I was mortified. I'm like, holy fuck. They didn't take it seriously. And at that point, I started trying to go after them for negligence. Ted Bollinger is a very dangerous man. I pretend to be the bad guy on the internet, just enough to draw attention to what's going on. That's a cool trunk. It's got Monopoly in it. Cool. Police officers across the United States told me things that were wrong. Police officers across the United States were hostile towards me over things that were untrue. Now, the things that I was being treated like shit for by the Rawlins Police Department and the Rawlins Sheriff Department, yeah, them conversations with Rayanna show that I was telling the truth. They also show that those police were completely out of line in how they treated me. Yes, Rayanna feels bad about hitting those kids. She was drinking all the time, like I said. But at least she admits it. The thing is that officers across the United States were involved in this. Because as soon as they ran my name, well, it says assault against a police officer, despite the fact that the charges were dropped. People are like, why don't you just let it go? Well, because I can't. I can't turn in my predators because of that lie. And like I said, my family didn't give a shit.